Let me give you a quick recap what we have done yesterday. So we are creating the instance here. We are opening the workbook and getting the worksheet as collection, and that we are storing it in the product data. Now we have the data here in this collection. Now we are supposed to process the records to create the new orders. So how to create the new orders? We have already designed a page to create the new order. Right, we're going to choose the option and then enter the order details and click on submit. Now from here we are supposed to get the output to store the result. Okay, here you will be having the output. You are supposed to define inputs and outputs as per the requirement. You need to understand where I should pass inputs, which action stage is giving me outputs and all. Any data you read from the application, you are supposed to if you want to read any data from the application, you're supposed to use read stage. Once you read the data from the application, you pass it back to the process studio. Okay, we are supposed to pass it back to the process studio. Understood? That is how you are going to read the data from the applications. Okay, so to pass it back to the process studio, what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to define a output. Okay, every action will be having its own inputs and outputs. Some actions may not require inputs and outputs. So let's say, for example, the first action where we are going to launch the application, does it require any inputs? No, it doesn't require any inputs to launch. Okay, so we can have our launch stage start and end parameters empty for launch stage. Okay, whereas while creating the order, we need to enter some information into the application. So that is the reason we have created some inputs here, right? See, the same way how we are creating inputs and outputs for our personal VBO, which is for Centrix Data Solution application, Similarly, for every VBO that we are going to utilize all the generic VBOs like utilities, MSSL VBO, Outlook VBO. So these are all the VBOs which we have. So let me go to C drive, program files, BluePrism Limited and BluePrism Automate. Inside that we will be having VBO folder. In this folder we will be having all these VBOs, and all the VBOs will be having multiple actions. Each and every action will have its own inputs and outputs. So basically, without these inputs and outputs, how will you be able to execute that action? So we need to pass the inputs to execute that action. So let's say, for example, think it in a very generic way. If you want to open a workbook, what will be your questions? So assume it you try to see it in a normal, to say like in day-to-day life, you are doing some task. To perform a task, there will be some steps, right? Those are involved. Okay, so let's say, for example, if you want to open an Excel file, so you need to know where that Excel file is, what is the name of the Excel file you are planning to open, and all, etc. Right? The same way here also, to perform any action, we need some inputs and outputs for that. That is how we are going to define the inputs and outputs. Okay, so Vishnu, I think you said like you are not able to store the value. So I think you might have not defined the output here. So try to check if you have defined your output here or not. Still, if you are not able to, then we will see. Then you can share your screen and show me where exactly you are facing the issue. Okay. And coming back to the main page. Now, here we will be having the collection, and we are going to process through all the records. Okay. Now, let's say, for example, so as per the requirement, we are able to, let me requirement document for you. 1 second. Let me go to Centrix Data Solution folder. Let me open the requirement document, and also the Excel file. So if you see in the Excel file, our reference number column is empty, right? Our reference number column is empty. As per the requirement here, what are we supposed to do? We create the order. One second. Okay, so we are going to read the reference numbers here, right? So repeat each step for the records in Excel file, and then update the reference numbers in the Excel file after completion of all the records. Okay, this is what we are supposed to do. So for all the records in the Excel file, we are supposed to complete step 3, step 4, and step 5. Step 3, we are going to navigate to new order page. Step 4, we are going to enter the order details. Step 5, we are going to submit and then read the reference number here. After reading the reference number, we are then going to update the reference number back into the Excel file. So how can we update the data into the Excel file? How can we update the data into the Excel file? So this is the place where we are going to see we are going to use new actions. So let me run this flow first. It is going to create the reference numbers. I'm going to run it in full speed. Guys, just observe this. I'm going to run it in full speed. Let me close the Excel file, and I'm going to run it in full speed so that it is going to create reference numbers for all the records, and that will be available in the product data collection. Okay. I have started the process. In the background, it is trying to create the instance and then proceed further. So please wait. Yeah, it started creating the orders. Once the orders are created, we will be having all the reference numbers in the collection. From there, we will be updating it into the Excel file. I'll show you how are we going to update the data into the Excel file. Okay. So it is creating orders for all the records. All you can see how much time it is taking for each record. So we are saving a lot of time here to process all these records. So if you do this manually, it will take a lot of time, right? So to copy paste each and every record into each and every field over here. So that is the reason we'll be using RPA in most of the scenarios. Not only in single domain, we'll be using it in every domain, okay? Like healthcare. So you will come to know when you get into your actual project, right? You will come to know what is the business purpose and how we are implementing that and all, okay? How the business is going to get benefited from that, etc. You'll be able to see once you get into the project, okay? So now let us come back here. So go to this product data and see if we have the reference numbers here. Yes, we have the reference numbers here, but you can see here, observe this. I have the reference numbers, but I'm getting this. Please make a note of this reference number and all. Okay, but I don't want to see all this information. I just want to see only reference number alone. So how to do that? If I want to get only reference number alone, will I be able to do that? How? Can someone tell me what is the expression I need to use to extract reference number from that? Okay, take it as an assignment. Okay, I want you guys to implement that. Take it as an assignment. I want you guys to extract the reference number and store it in the collection and then update it into the Excel file. Now we have the data in the collection. Now how are we going to update this to the Excel file? That is our requirement here. Now let us see how we are going to update it into the Excel file. So we know how to get the data from the Excel file. Now if you want to write the data into the Excel file, which action is going to help us? Let me take an action stage. Open the action stage here. And you can take a look at MS Excel VBO object. Once you select MS Excel VBO object, in the action list, you will be able to see all the list of actions which are available under MS Excel VBO. Okay. Now here, if you scroll down, you will be having an action called as write collection. How will I come to know that there is an action? So you need to explore all the actions. Okay. I'm not going to teach you all the actions. Okay. You are supposed to explore them. So even in .NET, what are the technology you are getting trained on, they are not going to talk about all the namespaces or all the libraries or all the classes in the .NET. Okay, they give you some high level information and then you are supposed to explore it from there based on the requirement. I'm going to show you how to use MS Excel VBO, and from there you are supposed to take it up forward like as per your requirement. Let's say for example, if you want to run a macro, you should be able to run the macro. How to create a macro, what is a macro, you have to learn and you have to come up with the solution for that. Okay, now write collection. When I say write collection, so what are the inputs it is expecting? See what are all the inputs we are expecting here. Handle, workbook name, collection. Tell me the sheet name in which I am supposed to write the collection which you are going to pass. And then you have cell reference, from where am I supposed to start, and column name. Do I need to include column names present in the collection or not? Okay. So this is what we are supposed to do here. So write collection will be the action which is going to help you to update the data into the Excel file. To update the data into the Excel file. Okay. Clear? So you can do this in multiple ways, updating the data into the Excel file in multiple ways actually. So let me show you. Right now, I am going to pass the instance ID and say pass the workbook name sheet name, and what will be the collection? Product data will be the collection. Cell reference, from where are we supposed to start? What will be our cell reference? We are supposed to pass the cell reference also here. So if I go to the orders Excel file, so from where are we supposed to start? What should be our cell reference here? What should be the cell reference here? From where I'm supposed to start entering the data? From which cell I'm supposed to start entering the data? F1. This the cell reference from where we are supposed to start writing the data. Okay, so let us take it as F1 cell reference 1. Okay, so this is going to be the cell reference F1. Let us come back here in BluePrism. Let us mention it as F1. Anyone else have any other answers? You can let me know. Are we going to include the headers? I'll say true and say okay. So here we are going to write the data into the Excel. Okay. Now in the main page, if you see the main page, what we have done first, we got the data and then we started the application and then we created the orders for all the records and now we came to end. Yes or no? Now we came to end. But if you observe this carefully in get Excel data, we are already creating the instance, opening the workbook, getting the data and closing the instance here, which means it will automatically close the workbook also. Okay. So if you want to write the data into the collection, again you are supposed to open the instance and open the workbook and then you are supposed to write the data into the Excel file. Okay. So for that, I am going to add a new page because getting the data is separate action, updating the data into the collection is a separate action. So we can't directly, I can't use it in this stage. I can't use it here or here. I can't use it here. Why? This will fail because what is the first step you are doing? First step itself, you are trying to get the data first. You will get the data only after creating the reference numbers, then only you are supposed to write the data. Yes or no? Then only you are supposed to write the data into the Excel. After creating the orders, you are supposed to write the data into the Excel. So you need to identify where to use this action. So to use this action, I am going to create a new page and name it as update reference number to Excel. Okay, so this is the place where we are going to use this. And while using this, don't forget to create instance and open the workbook. Okay, don't forget to create instance and open the workbook. Once we create the instance and open the workbook and then write the data into the write the collection data into the Excel file, and then you write the collection data into the Excel file. After writing the data into the Excel file, then we are supposed to save the Excel file. We are supposed to save the workbook. Excel, we call it as a workbook file. Excel file, we'll be calling it as a workbook. Save current workbook or save workbook. You can say save workbook. So there will be two inputs here, instance ID and workbook name. Pass them, click OK. Here we are going to save the workbook and then again we are supposed to close the instance. Okay. I'm copy pasting the actions so that it will be easy for me to select the object and related action. I'm then closing the instance here. Here let us pass the instance ID. Okay. Let us expose the data items here. See, these actions I have copied from the get Excel data. Which actions? Create instance and open workbook. You can see in this page we have defined all the variables. I mean to say like all the data items. Now we are supposed to expose these data items. If we are not going to expose these data items, then we won't be able to use them. Okay. So don't forget to expose these data items here. So if you are not going to expose these data items, you won't be able to use them in the another pages. So that is the reason. Now if we reset and see, we can check will not have any errors here. And then so while closing the instance, you need to close the instance by passing instance ID here. Okay. So which collection we are writing into the Excel? We are writing product data collection. See, it will all the time it will ask only collection. You can't write a single field over there. You can't pass text over there. Single data item can't be passed because what is the data type here? Collection. What are the inputs? What are the names of the inputs we have? Handle, workbook name, collection, worksheet name, cell reference, include column names. Okay. So we are supposed to use all of these, and then we are supposed to uh, continue further. Okay, write the data into the Excel file. Now let us come back. So what is the cell reference we have mentioned here? Observe this. What is the cell reference we have mentioned here? F1. Okay, F1. And let me close the Excel file. Now come back to the main page and refer your main page, refer your update reference number to Excel page into the main page. Okay, update reference number to Excel into the main page. Now we are going to refer the page here. Now link them. Okay, now reset the complete flow. Let us run the process once again. So once the process is completed, we are supposed to close the application, right? For that, what we can do, let us go to the object once and add one more page here. Name it as terminate application. Terminate application. Now here I will take a navigate stage. Open the navigate stage. Drag and drop the parent element. Click on terminate. Choose the action terminate. Close application. Okay. So this action. I am going to publish this action. Save it. Provide the comments as added terminate action to close the application. Okay, proper comments. Now close the object. Refresh your process studio. Drag and drop the action stage. Open the action stage. Choose. This is the one, right? Centrist Data Solution. VBO. Terminate app. Okay. And once we are done updating the data into that, or first we will first terminate the application and then we'll update the data. Okay, terminate the app and then update the data into the Excel file. Is that clear so far? So now let us run this and see what is going to happen now. Let me put a breakpoint here. I'll put a breakpoint here. I'll put a breakpoint here. Okay, and let me add one more stage here. Let me add one more action here, so you will be able to see how it is writing the data. Okay, I'm going to add one more stage here. What is that? Take an action stage, open the action stage, go to MS Excel VBO, select show. I'm going to use action show here and pass the reference ID to this, instance ID to this. There will not be any outputs for this. It will just open all the Excel files which are under that instance. Okay. In a specific instance, we can open multiple Excel files also. We can try it. Clear? So this is how we are going to use our step. And then come back to the main page and put a breakpoint over here. Now let me minimize everything here. Minimize everything. Stop, stop. Come back to the process. And now let us run this. Now I'm going to run this flow. You can see to the left side, you will be getting your application. I think it's in full speed. Yeah, let it be in full speed. You won't even see that yellow highlight mark which is happening, but you can see in the bottom of the process studio, you can see what are all the stages it is currently working on. In the bottom, you can see how it is navigating to other pages and all in the process studio. So let it create orders for all the records. So meantime, if anyone of you are in front of your missions, you can keep practicing along with me. We're running it in full speed, right? So you won't even see how it is happening. So which stage it is currently executing and all, because it will be working fastly. Now we are going to hit the breakpoint after closing this application. So once all the records are completed, yeah. So see here, the process is able to close the application also. See, we are now no more having the application on the screen. You can see the application is also closed. This stage is also got executed. Now we are coming to this update reference number to the Excel. So let us step in and do step by step. Let us run step by step here. So create instance, because why we are creating the instance again here? After getting the data from the Excel file, right, we are closing the instance. We no more want that Excel file to be in open state. We have already discussed what is going to happen. If you keep it in the open state, it keeps consuming the memory of the CPU. Okay, so now let us come back to this reference number. Now again we are going to create the instance here, and we are going to open the workbook. Now we are going to click on show. See, it is showing the workbook now. You can see the workbook. Okay. Is it showing the workbook? You can see from the left side of the screen, you can see the workbook. Okay. Now what are we going to do? Now we are going to write the data into the Excel file. Now observe your Excel file, how it is going to work. See, and from where are we writing the data? We are passing the whole collection here, complete product data collection into that. So let me open this properties. What are we passing here? Inputs, passing the complete product data collection, and from F1 we are going to write the data. F1 is the cell reference. I also want to include the column names, so that's the reason I mentioned it as true, the flag as true. Okay. When you execute this, you can see it is writing the data here. See, it has written the data into the Excel file, and how it has written the data, each one by one row after one row after one, it has written the data. And what happened? We are updating the whole collection here. We are updating the whole collection here. Yes or no? We are updating the whole collection here. Okay. So that is the reason from F1 it has written the whole collection. We are not updating single reference number. What is the collection is having? Collection is having, what did we mention in the right collection stage? In the right collection stage, we are passing the whole collection, and our collection is also having the values of the inputs. Our collection also have the values of customer account number, product code, unit price, quantity, etc. Yes, sir. And that is the reason it started from this cell reference. I have mentioned cell reference as F1. From this cell, it started updating the whole collection. The whole collection is updated in the cell. Understood? From F1, it has updated the whole collection here. So what should be your cell reference now? Tell me what should be the cell reference? From where are we supposed to update the data? Yes, if you don't answer, how will I come to know whether you have understood or not? Okay, let me continue. So our cell reference must be A1. Our cell reference must be A1. It depends on our requirement. From where you want to update the data, it depends on our requirement. Since I have already this data, I am going to update it from A1. So no. If my requirement is only I want to update reference number alone, then we have to store this reference number in a separate collection and then update the column here. Okay. But in this scenario, what are we going to do? We are going to update the whole data into the Excel file. Okay, so our cell reference should be A1. So now, for now, let us go ahead and close the instance of this. I'm going to close this instance. Now again, what I'm going to do, I'm going to rerun this page from here. I updated the cell reference here. So guys, to make you understand, I'm trying to do all these steps. Okay, you are not supposed to do all these steps in a single go. You should be able to understand where exactly you are supposed to provide the cell reference, from which you are trying to update and all. You should be able to identify that. Okay. So now it is going to open the workbook and then it is going to show. Okay, we did not save it in previous scenario. That is the reason you are not able to see the data here. Previously it updated the data, it has written the data into the Excel file, but we did not save it. Now see what is going to happen. Now it is going to write the data into the collection. You can see how it is writing the data. Okay, and then save the workbook, close the instance. Once you close the instance, go back to the Excel file and open your Excel file and see if you have the data or not. Did you get your reference numbers here? In the column, you have got the reference numbers. Yes or no? This is how we update the data into the Excel. Right collection is the action. So what you need to understand is right collection is the action. For right collection, there will be some inputs. You need to mention the collection which is supposed to be updated to the Excel file. You can't pass an individual value. You should pass a collection group of data. It will accept only group of data. You can write group of data. Okay, at least there should be at least 5 to 6 rows which you are planning to update. Okay, let's say if you want to pass single record, single value, then you should go for this collection and put a single row in that. Even in that scenario, you should be able to pass collection, not the data items. Okay. Any questions? Anyone wants me to repeat what we have discussed so far? Okay. If you don't have any questions, I think we can proceed now. Yeah. This is how we are going to update it. So now let us come back to the requirement document. If you see in the requirement document, right, there is one step mentioned here. All the info from Excel file is to be added to work queue and then processed in the application. So we are supposed to process all this data from the queues. What is the purpose of queues? Now we are going to step into a new concept. So we are going to learn a new concept called as case management. Case management will be done through queues, work queues. In BluePrism, we call it as queues. So you might have come across the data structure subject in your engineering. Yes or no? I'm not sure how many of you are from CSC. I think most of you might be coming across this data structures concept. So if I'm not wrong, so data structures is one of the concept where you will be learning about different types of data, how to process the data, what do you mean by a stack, what do you mean by a list, what do you mean by queue. You'll be going for this linear structure, etc. Yes or no? So binary search, linear search, you can search the data, etc. using these data structures concept. So let's say, for example, in Google Chrome, you go ahead and try to search for something, right? Automatically, it will be able to show you some search. So let's say if you want to search for something, uh, you go to Google Chrome here. Once you start typing, it keeps giving you suggestions, right? It keeps giving you suggestions here. So new iPhone. So when I say iPhone, so it starts giving me some suggestions here. New iPhone or new IPL teams, iPad, iPhone 13, iPhone launch, IPO 2021, IPO listing, likewise, right? So how is this possible? How is this possible? Do you ever wonder how is this possible and why this particular Google is so famous compared to other what to say like other search engines like Yahoo, Bing? We have a lot of search engines, right? But most of us will keep using this Google only. Why? Because Google is capable of identifying the suggestions also for us. It will provide the suggestions and it will be able to fetch the exact data from the search engines. Okay, so that is how they have written the algorithm. It will be the search will be faster compared to other search engines and we'll get the accurate results what we are looking for. That is the purpose Google is so famous. So to get it done, they have written a lot of algorithms in the background using data structures. Which concept? Using data structures, they have designed this algorithm. Okay, so basically, out of the data structures concepts, we are going to have one concept here in BluePrism. One small concept in BluePrism. What is that? Queues. Queues. Okay, so what is the purpose of queues and how are we going to manage them? So when we are processing huge data, we might come across issues at some point. So let's say, for example, in my Excel file, today I have received 20 records for which I am supposed to create the orders. But whereas tomorrow I might get 40 records, day after tomorrow I might get 200 records, one day I might get 1000 records also. 1000 records also, right? So here, whenever we ran into some issue, so let's assume that every time you can't expect you'll be having the proper data and structured data over here. Okay, so let me delete these reference numbers here. uh, every time you can't expect that you will be having the proper data, the input data can't be proper all the time. So assume for some records they might miss product code, from some records they might miss unit price, for some records they might miss some value. Okay, they might miss some values here, right? We can't expect every time okay there will be customer account number all the time. We can't expect the proper data all the time. Sometimes it is a data, right? Someone might be entering or someone some fields may not be unique or whatever it may be. So whenever we come across such scenarios, what is going to do? Bot will my process will be able to run these two records and here it is going to fail. Here it is going to fail. It won't be able to create the order. Yes sir. If you go to the Centrix data solution, if you go to Centrix data solution, log into Centrix data solution. So we are not doing this manually. We are passing whole data to the our bot. So what our bot is going to do? When I say bot, right? Don't get confused. Okay, bot is nothing but our solution or process. Our process itself we call it as a bot. Okay, our process itself we call it as a bot. Okay. Now what is going to happen here? See, first two records I will be able to create the order and I will be able to read the reference number properly. Now when coming to the fourth record, okay, so it will not enter customer account number. It will simply enter product code, unit price, and then what is the quantity value. It will simply enter these values and we have priority order as true, so it is going to select the priority order as true. Since there is no value inside the customer account number, it is not going to enter customer account number and now it is going to click on submit. So once it click on submit, are we getting the reference number here? No. What is it we are getting here? We are coming across a validation error. What is the validation error? Please ensure all fields are completed or not. So it is going to throw an error saying that please ensure all fields are completed or not. So what I'm going to do here is, so whenever I get this error, I will go back and I will check. Okay, so here the customer account number is missing. So let me provide the customer account number here. Okay, let me provide the customer account number here, and then let us reprocess the file. So now when you try to reprocess the file, see what is going to happen. Now let us do this in the, I'm going to save this. Let us run this from the application and see. Application in the sense like let the process run this. I'm going to close this Excel file. Now you can see, observe what is going to happen now. Okay. Now once I start the flow, okay, let us run it slowly. Once we start the flow, see what is going to happen. So for first two records, it will be able to create the reference number for the first two records. Whereas coming to the third record, see, coming to the third record, what happened? It is throwing error here, right? Third record. Please ensure all fields are completed. And we are not handling this pop-up. As per our flow, okay. So only when you click OK here, it will be navigated. Once you get the reference number, it will read the reference number. And when you click on the OK in the reference number field, then only it will be navigating back to the application. Otherwise, it will wait for the order confirmation screen and it will go to timeout. Okay, and it will go to timeout. See, it went to timeout here. Let me show you what is happening here. Let me click OK. Let me step in. I'm stepping in into the application. Sorry, into the object. Stepping in into the object. See what is going to happen. Now we are getting the data. We got the data from the collection to this process studio to object studio. You can see the customer account field is empty here. Customer account number field is empty here because in the Excel file we did not define the customer account number field for this record. Now it is going to activate the application, and now we are going to enter product code, unit price, and customer account number. Since the customer account number value is empty, no value will be entered here. Okay, now it is going to select the quantity. Okay, and then it is going to set the priority order. Okay, so once the priority order is set, now we are going to click on submit button. Submit. Okay, so once you submit, observe here what is the immediate action we are doing. After clicking on submit, what is the immediate action we have defined here? What is the immediate step? In the immediate step, we are waiting for order confirmation window. We are trying to check if order confirmation window is available or not. If order confirmation window is available, then go ahead and read the reference number. Else what is going to happen? It will simply go to timeout and it will throw timeout error. Because it is not able to find window order confirmation. It is not able to find window order confirmation. Only when window order confirmation is available, it will continue. Else it will go to timeout. Okay. And why it went to timeout? we have to define a proper message here. Why it is going to time out and all, we have to define it. We will do it while we work on exception handling. Okay, so anyway, what you need to understand here is, if there is no data, it is going to fail to continue with the next records. Now if I say continue, you can see what is going to happen to the object. It will wait for some time and it will go to timeout. It will wait for the time that is mentioned in this wait stage. So what is the time we have mentioned in the wait stage? We have mentioned 30 seconds. It will wait for 30 seconds. It will try to check if order confirmation screen is available or not. Still, if the order confirmation screen is not available, it will simply go to timeout. So it went to timeout. Now execute this. It will throw an error telling that failed to find stage input from the timeout. Okay, basically we are supposed to link these timeout stages to some other stages. After completion of exception handling concept, I will tell you how to handle them. But till then, try to concentrate. Try to assume that it is throwing an error. Just assume that it is throwing an error. Okay, what error we are going to define and all, we'll see. Okay, are you getting my point? So that is what is going to happen. Since it is throwing an error because we are not able to navigate to the right screen, and that reason we are running into error. So how are we going to do that? Now what I will do? So we ran into error. So I identified that customer account number value is empty. So let me click OK. Close the application. Reset the flow here. Close this application also, and close the Object Studio also. Once we close the Object Studio, since I have identified that our input file is not having a value, I will go to orders Excel file now. I will go to orders Excel file. Now I will see for which record we are missing the customer account number. I might ask my client to update the customer account number, or if I know, I will also update the customer account number here. Okay. So once I update the customer account number here, now I am going to rerun the process. I will save my file. I am going to save my file, close the Excel file. Now I am going to rerun the process once again. Okay. Now I am going to rerun the process once again. If I rerun the process, is it going to execute from the record where exactly we have ran into error, or is it going to start creating the orders for first two records also? Is it going to start from this record, or it is going to start creating the orders from this record? From where it is going to start? If I rerun the flow, it will start from the first record only, and it is going to create duplicate reference numbers for first and second records. It is going to create duplicate reference numbers for first and second record. Okay, getting my point? Okay, so for that reason, what are we going to do? That is the place where we are going to introduce work queues. So whenever we run into error while processing the data through the collection, okay, we will be getting the data into this collection, right? So we might run into issue at some record. Is it going to continue with the remaining records? Until and unless you resolve the issue and you run the flow, it won't be able to continue with the remaining records. So what are we supposed to do then? So let's say I have 1000 records. Let's say we have 1000 records. Bot is successfully able to complete 900 and around 985 records. Okay. Completed 985 records. Okay. So and there are only 15 records left, right? We have 15 records left. Now if it runs into an issue at 986th record, what is going to happen to the remaining records, the remaining 14 records? If I process the data through the collection, I won't be able to process these records. Now when you restart the flow, when you restart the flow, it will again starts creating the reference numbers for all the completed records. 985 duplicate reference numbers will be created. Okay, how many? 985 duplicate reference numbers will be created for all those records. Understood? So that is the place where we are not going to process the data from the collection. We are now going to use a new concept called as work queue. Now, instead of iterating on this collection, we are now creating a queue and we will be pushing the input data which we are going to get into the queue. Now the data which we are going to get, so we read the Excel file, right? We get the data from the Excel file. We get the data. Once we get the data will be in this collection. Now from this collection, we are going to add the data into the queue. Okay. So how we are going to do that? We'll see after a break. Okay. So you guys can go for a break and come back by 11:30. I want everyone to be back by 11:30. Okay, take 20 minutes break and then we'll continue. Okay, requesting everyone to please be back by 11:30.
This conference will now be recorded.
So to process the records without any issue, we are now going to implement work queues. Before we go ahead and directly implement the work queue concept in this, right? Let us do a simple example. Okay, let us see how to create a queue. Let us do it on a simple process. Okay, and then we'll come back here and we'll implement the queue concept in this also. Okay, so I'll give you a first simple example and then we'll get into our automation. Okay, so let us come back here. So let us create a new process. I think we already have a process with the collection. First process for demo. I think this is having some data. Yes, we have some employee data here. So on few records, we are going to implement this on few records here. We are going to implement this on few records here. So what are we trying to do here is employee data. Yeah, we are adding the bonus amount, right? Yeah. Let us do this by utilizing this queue concept. Let us add some more records to these initial values. You know, some random records, random values, and say value anything. Okay, 5 records. Now let me show you how are we going to process this data. Instead of putting it in the collection, how are you going to process this data? Through work queues. Okay, so let us implement on a simple example first and then we will implement queue concept in our process. Okay, so first, how to create a queue and where to create a queue. Go to BluePrism main window. In BluePrism main window, you will be having system tab. In the system tab, if you want to create a queue along with me, you can follow the steps here. Okay, go to system tab. In the system tab, now you can see workflow in the system tab. Workflow in the system tab. Sir, to the left side of the system, in the left side of the system tab, you can see all the available features here. So under this available features, you will be having a feature called workflow. Under workflow, if it is like this, you can expand this hierarchy, and here you can see work queue. select work queue. There is already a queue defined. Okay, now for our requirement we are supposed to process employee data. Okay, so what I do here, I will add a new queue. We will add a new queue. By clicking on button new, you will be able to add a new queue here. Okay, and provide the name of the queue as employee queue. What is that? Employee queue. Okay, so I will talk about these features later. Okay, now click on apply button. We are just creating the queue here, and I'm going to click on this apply button. If you are planning to create a queue along with me, go to system tab, go to work queues, and you will be able to see your queue list will be empty. Initially you will be having q1 by default. Select that queue and then rename it to employee queue here. Okay, once you rename it to employee queue, what you do, you click on apply button. To the right side bottom corner you will be having apply button. Click on apply button and the queue will be created here. Once the queue is created, come back to the control room. In the control room you can see queue management. Under queue management you can see your queue will be running state. Your queue will be in running state. Select your queue. You are supposed to select your queue. Select the queue and you will be able to see the queue contents here. In the right side, queue configuration work queues, configure work queues and all here. Under this queue content, this is the queue content. Under queue content you will be able to see the contents once you add the data to the queue. Now let us see how are we going to add the data to the queue. We created the queue. Where we have created the queue? We created the queue in the system tab under work queues. This is our queue, employee queue, and we can see them in the control room. We can manage them in the control room. Go to your employee queue, select your employee queue. Here is your employee queue. Currently we don't have any data in this employee queue. Now let us see how we are going to add the data into the employee queue. And you can see what are all the columns we have under the queue contents: item key, priority, status, tags, resources, attempt, created, last updated, etc. Okay, now let us go for our process. Go back to our process. Let us add this employee data into the queue. How to add? Now I am going to take a action stage. I'm going to take an action stage. To add the data to the queue, we are supposed to use internal business objects work queue. We are supposed to use internal business objects work queue. Under internal business objects, you will be able to see work queues. Okay, select work queues, and then you will be able to see all the actions which you can perform on work queues. Okay, so these are our work queues and these are the list of actions which we can perform on the work queues. Okay, now you can go through these actions. Add to queue, which will help you to add the data to the queue. Copy item to queue. If you want to copy any item to another queue, from one queue to another queue, you can use this. Okay, and defer the item. You can defer it in the sense like you can postpone the processing of a item. Delete the item, delete processed items, get completed items, get exception items. So on top of the queue you can perform all these actions. Likewise you will be having multiple actions in the queue. Okay, now what is the action which we are supposed to use to add the data to the queue? So to add the data, we have a direct action called add to queue. The first action under work queues is add to queue. Okay, we are going to use this add to queue action to load the data into the work queue. So what is the queue name? Take a data item, define the name in the data item, name it as queue name. I am going to mention my queue name here in the data item. My queue name is employee queue, is the name of the queue which I have created. Okay. Now, if you want to add the data to the queue, there are some inputs which you are supposed to provide. So what are the inputs it is expecting? Provide me the name of the queue to which I am supposed to add the data. And what is the data? Data should be in collection type. The data type of the data which you are going to send as an input to this queue should be collection type. Okay. Now first let us pass the name of the queue. We have taken a data item. We have stored our name of the queue in this queue name data item. Okay. Queue name is the name of the data item in which we are storing the value or queue name, actual queue name. Okay, so you can directly hard code here also, hard code it here also, but we have to keep using it repeatedly, right? So I have mentioned it in the data item. So it is good practice to put all the values in the data items or collections instead of having it in the, instead of hard coding it here. Okay. Now we are supposed to pass the data which needs to be loaded into the queue. So this is the whole data. You can't pass single records. Okay, don't pass single values. Okay, you have to pass the whole collection. We are supposed to load the complete collection into the queue. Load the whole collection into the queue. Whole data into the queue. Employee data. Okay. Now click OK. You can see this data will be added into the queue now. So first we are going to execute that. Let me put a breakpoint over here. Let me put a breakpoint over here. Okay. Now let us start the flow. So initially our queue is going to be empty. Initially our queue is going to be empty. You can see to the left side of the screen, we have the control room where you are able to see the queue. Currently there is no data inside the queue. You can refresh your queue data. If any data is added and if you want to see the data, you can keep refreshing that so that it will show you updated information in the queue. Okay. So now let us start the flow. I'm going to run this. You can see all those records that we are mentioned in this employee data collection will now be added into the queue. Okay, now let us refresh this queue and see if we have got the data. Are you able to see the records here? We have got some records here, yes or no? We got some records here. So how many records we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 rows in our collection. What are the 5 rows? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All these 5 rows are now being added to work queue. And once you add the data, the initial status of every record in the queue will be in pending status. Okay. To overcome the above problem statement, we are going to introduce work queues. Okay, we are going to introduce work queues. Once the data is loaded to the queue, initial status of all the records in the queue will be status of all the records in the queue will be pending. Okay, pending. 3 dots represents that status of the record is in pending. Okay, okay. 3 dots represent the status of the record is in pending. So what are all the status we will be having in the queue? So here you click on this drop down, you can see completed status. Tick mark is nothing but completed status. Locked is in progress. This is flag means exception. This is pending. By default, all the records will be in pending status. By default, all the records will be in pending status. So we are going to load the data into the queue, and from the queue we are going to process the data. We are no more going to use, we are not going to use this collection anymore. We are not going to use this collection anymore. Okay, so ideally what are we doing here? To add a salary bonus, to add the bonus to employee salary, we have defined it here, and we have defined the bonus amount here. So bonus amount is empty, let's say 10,000, whatever it may be, any value, both should be same, current values also, bonus values. So ideally we are processing it through the collection. Instead of using collection, now we are planning to process it through the work queue. Okay, so we have added the loaded the data into the queue. Now we have loaded the data into the queue, and here you can see the data present inside the queue. Okay, now are you able to identify which record is belonging to which employee? Are you able to identify that? No, right? Each record will be having all the data present in each row. Each row will be added as each record here in the queue. This whole row will be added into single record. Similarly, here also the second row will be completely added into second row. Here the third row will be added into third row, but it won't show you what information we have added. It will not show you the values. It will not show you the values, but there will be a record for this value. But if you want to identify which is what, which value represents what, okay, what we can do in that scenario, to represent that, we will take a unique column from our data. What is the unique column in our data here? In the employee data, which is the unique column here? Which column is unique? Employee ID is unique here, right? For all the employees, ID will be unique, yes or no? With same ID, we can't have two employees, right? So what we do, I am now again going back to the system tab, because I want to identify which record is related to what. So I am going to system tab. In the system tab, go to queue, select your queue. In that there will be a field name, right? In that you pass the field name, employee ID. So whatever the collection you are planning to add to the queue, whatever the collection you are planning to, sorry, let me close this process. Whatever the collection you are planning to add to the queue, this is our collection, right? Employee data. So in this collection, you are supposed to identify the unique column, unique field, and that field name, if you mention it here, if you mention that field name here, okay, see what is going to happen. Now again I'm going to add the data into the queue. Now again I'm going to add the data into the queue. Okay, go to the control room, select our queue here. These are the records when we added previously. Now again I'm going to add the data into the queue. I have added the data to the queue. Now let me refresh this queue data here. Once I refresh that, now are you able to see the under item key column? Are you able to see your employee IDs? Now you will come to know, okay, this record belongs to so and so employee. This record is so and so employee. This record is so and so employee. This record is so and so employee. Understood? So there is a key field in the queue configuration under system tab. There you are supposed to pass a unique column, and that unique column will be able to represent its data present in the queue. Now here you will be able to see which record belongs to what. But whereas in previous scenario, we are not able to, right? Okay. So I will delete these records. If you want to delete the records which are added to the queue, you have to mark them as exception, and then only you will be able to delete them. I will tell you once again how to delete the records, but for now, forget about deleting the records. Okay. So now observe here what is happening. So now we have added the data to the queue. Now we have all the records in the queue. So all the records which are available in the employee data collection are now being added to our queue. Now, as we discussed, we are not supposed to process the data from the collection, because if we process the data from the collection, if we come across any issue, it is going to fail. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm now going to delete this. Let's say this as next stage. Delete the loop here. I'm no more going to use loop stage. Okay. Now see what is going to happen. Let me put it back. Let me explain it in a different way. You should not get confused. So that, okay. Let me put it back. Do it in a different way. I'll do it in a different way. Okay. So that it will be easy for you to understand. Now I have the data here. Instead of, I'm not supposed to process the data from the collection, but I need to process it from queue. Which is my queue? Employee queue. In employee queue, I have the data. Okay. Now to get the data from the queue, we have to fetch the data from the queue. So we have now loaded the data into the queue, and now we are supposed to fetch the data from the queue, and then we are supposed to process that data. So how to fetch the data from the queue? For that, again, we take one more action stage, open the action stage, select the internal business object work queue. You have multiple actions here. Out of them, we are supposed to go for get next item. Get next item. We are supposed to go for get next item. So get next item will bring you the record from the queue. Okay. How many records it is going to bring? Only one record. Okay. To add the data to the queue, to add or to load the data into the queue, we use action add to queue. To process the data present in the queue, we are supposed to use get next item. We use action get next item. Okay. To load the data to the queue, add to queue. To process the data, we use get next item. So why are we using get next item? Why are we using get next item? That is our next question. Okay. So get next item, here we are supposed to either go for, sorry, we have multiple actions here, like get pending items, get queue names, get report data, get locked items, get item data, etc. Why aren't we using all these? Why are we using only get next item? Now I'm going to talk about the advantages of get next item. Okay. Advantages of get next item. Get next item will get one record at a time from the queue. Like how collection is processing. So one of 5 rows, 2 of 5 records, 3 of 5 records. We are supposed to process one record at a time, right? Okay. So get next item will get one record at a time from the queue. At a time from the queue. Okay. While getting the data, it follows before concept. What is this? FIF what? What is that? First in, first out. Whichever the record is added first into the queue, that will be picked up first from the queue. Okay. So in a movie theater, okay. So when we go to buy tickets, right? We will be having queues. Once we enter the queue, if you enter the queue first, you will be getting the ticket first. Okay. So first in, first out. Whoever enters the queue first, their request will be processed first. Similarly here also, when we add the data into the queue, so first record whichever is added into the queue, that will be processed first. Understood? Okay. So get next item is capable of doing that. Automatically it will do that. Okay. We don't need to mention anywhere that you have to follow this first in first out concept. It will blindly follow this first in first out concept and it brings the data for you. Okay. And also after picking up the data from queue, it will automatically lock the item in the queue, which means the item, the status of the item, inside the queue will be changing to locked state automatically. You can see the status will be changing to lock automatically. Okay. Now let us come back here. Okay. So for that reason, we are going to use get next item. So when you get the next item, so from which queue, we are supposed to mention the inputs here. From which queue I am supposed to get the item. I'll pass the queue name here. From this queue, we are supposed to get the items. Okay. And in the outputs, we are going to get item ID, and we are going to get data. So what is the data? We are going to get the data from the queue. Okay. I will name it as item data and I'm going to create the collection. Okay, we created two collection. First I created data. Let me delete that. So item data is the collection in which we are going to store the data which is coming from the queue. Okay, now we are no more going to process this through the collection because let me explain that. Let us come back here. Queue name, item ID, start, add to queue, get next item. So now I am going to execute this stage. I am going to execute this stage alone. So what is that we are doing here? Now we are going to execute this get next item and see how we are going to get the data. Okay. So when I execute get next item, see what is going to happen here. I'm going to execute get next item. Observe, concentrate on these two data items here. Concentrate on these two data items here. Okay. Execute get next item. Now it is able to get an item. It is able to get an item, and there is some value inside the item ID. A unique value will be generated for each item in the queue. And you can see we got the data also. Open this and see what data is available. So you can see first record is available in the collection. First record is available in the collection. Yes, sir. First record is available in the collection. Now go back to the queue. Go back to the queue. Refresh the queue. Are you able to see the first record is in locked state now? This case was locked on so and so date and so time. So because of get next item, so when the get next item got executed, immediately it has picked up the first record which is added to the queue. The first record which has been added to the queue has been picked up by get next item, and it is able to lock that item. And now we are able to see the data here. Yes or no? Now we are able to see the data here. Where we have the data? We have the data here. Now, if I continue, is it okay if I continue now? No, because in the collection, so in the loop, I have mentioned employee data. Employee data. So what if now, where is my data? My data is present in item data collection. Okay. So what I do? I'll come here and I will say item data and click OK. Is it correct? So what is going to happen? How the loop is going to work? How the loop is going to work? I'll execute this, see what is going to happen. I'm going to execute. It will come here. Okay. It will execute the. Is it going to run this stage? Is it going to run this stage? Where are we having the data? We have the data in item data, but in the calculation stage, we are trying to add the salary from the employee data collection still. We need to change it here. Okay. What we need to do? We are supposed to pass the data from item data dot employee salary. Item data dot employee salary, because we are no more using this collection. This collection will be used only to add the data to the queue. That's all. You add the data to the queue, whatever the data you have, input data, simply load it into the queue. That's all. After that, we are no more going to use this collection. We are no more going to use this collection after adding the data to the queue. So once you, till you add the data to the queue, you are going to have the data in this collection. After adding the data to the queue, the whole data will be inside the queue, and from queue you have to fetch the data. When you fetch the data, that you are supposed to store it in some other collection. The name of the collection can be anything. You can define your own name here and create a collection. So from that collection, you are supposed to process the data. See in this collection if you have that column or not. Yes, employee salary column is available here. And this is what type of collection? This is undefined collection. This is a defined collection where you have fields defined, and this is our undefined collection. This is our undefined collection. Okay. Now, when I say continue, it is going to add the data, and where are we supposed to store it? While storing also, we are supposed to use item data. Item data. Okay. Okay. Now to continue and continue, there is only one record. It executed one record. It will simply go to end. It will not go to get next item. So basically, once you process this, you are supposed to go to get next item. So here, get next item will be your loop. Okay, not loop stage. When you are using queues, every time you need to go back to your get next item. Okay, because get next item will be able to get only one record at a time. As I mentioned here, get next item will get one record at a time from the queue. While getting the data, it follows first in first out concept. After picking up the data from the queue, it will automatically log the item in the queue. Okay, the status will be updated to log. Clear? Now, so we are not going to use collections anymore here. So we will get the item from the queue and we will continue here, and from here we will go back and going to use anchor to design the flow. We will go back to the get next item. And when are we going to end? When are we going to end? How are we going to identify if there are items in queue or not? We should check, right, if there are items in the queue or not. Yes or no? So for that reason only we have this item ID. So what is going to happen if I run it like this? See what is going to happen if I run it like this. Okay, if I run it like this, what is going to happen? Set next stage and continue. Let me continue. Okay, let me reset the flow. One second, guys. Just give me a second. Select all. So I am going to run the flow once again from first. Okay. So load the data to the queue. Data will be loaded into the queue. You can see the data is loaded into the queue. After loading the data into the queue, now we are going to get the next item from the queue. Execute. You got the item from the queue, one item at a time. One item at a time. And what is going to happen? The item which has been picked up will be automatically moved into locked state. Are you able to see? The item is automatically moved into locked state. So once the item is moved to locked state, now we are going to process that. Okay, continue. Okay, now again continue. We finish the first record. You can see the result is salary bonus. We have added 10,000 to the employee salary. Now you can see the value is available in the salary. The next item. Now there will be a new record in this item data. The collection will be updated all the time. Okay. Yes sir. Next item. Now you go to queue and see, refresh the queue. Refresh the queue. See, both are in locked state. Now we are working on the which record 1008. Okay. Continue. 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 So we completed all. We completed 4 records. Now if I continue, it will go ahead and pick the 5th record also. So we processed the 5th record also. Okay. There are no more pending items. It will pick only pending items. Get next item will pick only pending items. Let me update that point here. Get only pending records and one record at a time from the queue. Get next item will get only pending records and one record at a time from the queue. Okay, so let us go back here and see what is going to happen now. So when you execute this, we will not have any more records here, yes or no? Because there are no more pending records in the queue. So get next item executed and values are empty here, and the item ID is also empty here. And if you try to add empty value to yours here, if you try to add empty row, what is going to happen? Execute, it will throw an error. The collection has no current row, there is no value inside this, and it is going to fail. So what are we supposed to do? Once we process all the records, we are supposed to check every time we process the record, every time before we execute this, after getting the next item and before we planning to execute the action, we are supposed to check if the item ID is having value or not. Okay, how are we going to check? Every time before I go ahead and add the salary to the current record, I will check item ID exists. Okay, how am I going to check? It is a text data type. I will pass my item ID, it's alphanumeric code, right? And I will check if it is not equal to null. Okay, if it is not equal to null, only then I will go ahead and go ahead and add the bonus to the salary. If it is not equal to null, I will go ahead and add the bonus to the salary. If it is null, I am going to end the flow. I'm going to end the flow. Okay, I'm going to end the flow. Okay, so if you remember, all the cases, all the items in the queue are in locker state. When I reset the flow, right, you can see automatically they will move to, see, they were in locker state, right? They were in locker state. I have reset the flow, right? I have reset the flow, reset the flow. Automatically you can see every record will be moved to exception here. See, all of them went to exception because automatically set exception at cleanup. A cleanup stage will be called in the background. So if you don't mark them as completed, it will automatically move them to exception status. Okay. So let me explain the concept here. Select all. I'm going to delete everything here. Okay. Before deleting, let me explain the concept once again. I'm going to set this as next stage. Add the data to the queue. It is adding the data to the queue. Now you can see we will be having some pending items. These are the pending items. We have added the data to the queue. Now once the item is picked up from the queue, refresh this, item will be in locked state. Automatically, pending and locked state will be assigned automatically. Okay, we don't need to do anything. But whereas after processing, we are supposed to mark that record as completed. We are supposed to mark that record as completed. Why? Can't you do it automatically? No. How will BluePrism come to know that at a specific point our process is done? How will it come to know? After adding salary, okay, we are done with that record. Are there some processes might be having some more actions to perform, right? After adding salary to the bonus, now they will try to do some other calculation. They might want to do some other calculation. Only after performing some other calculation, they will mark the record as completed. So how can BluePrism go ahead and automatically mark that as completed? And how will BluePrism come to know that after this step, yes, I am done with that, I can mark this as completed? No, right? It will not come to know. That is the reason we are going to explicitly mark the item as completed inside the queue by taking an action stage, go to the action stage, select internal business object work queues, and choose the action mark completed. We'll be having an action called as mark completed, and also mark exception. Both of them we have to do it explicitly. Based on the exception type and message, we are supposed to mark it as exception, and based on our process flow, we are supposed to mark it as completed. Okay, so here I'm going to pass item ID. So to mark the record as completed, item ID will be useful. Okay, now after I add a bonus to the salary, then I will mark that record as completed. Then I'm going to mark that record as completed. Okay, Now I'm going to mark it as completed. Now see what is going to happen. Now I have data here. Now I have data here. There is value inside the item ID. Yes or no? There is value inside the item ID. So now you can test this, evaluate the expression and see. Since there is value, it will give you true. If there is no value, it will give you false. Okay, understood? Now if you execute this, you can see it will take S path. It has taken S path. Since we have item ID value, now we are going to add bonus to the salary. After adding the bonus, check the status of the queue. Sorry, check the status of the record in the queue. It is still in lockout status only, right? It is still in lockout status only. Let me refresh it. Our process is completed. Our actual requirement is completed. We are supposed to add bonus to the salary. We added it, but did our BluePrism is able to mark that record as completed automatically? No, right? It won't be able to do that. Okay, we are supposed to define the rule that after this specific step, you mark that record as completed because I have completed adding the bonus to my salary. Now, if you execute this, now you can see it is going to mark the record as completed in the queue. Let us go to the queue and see. Let me refresh this queue. Now you can see 41004 item is now in completed status. This case was successfully completed on so and so date at so and so time. Okay. Is that clear? Now similarly, let us go to the next item. Now it is going to bring the next item here. Get the next item. Okay. I'm sorry guys. Yeah, now we are going to get the next item. It picked up the next item. You can see item ID value will keep changing for each and every record here. If you want, you can observe the item ID values. Now, which record it has picked up? 1008. 1008. Go to the queue and refresh the queue and see what is the value. It is in locked state. Currently, which state it is in? Locked state. Okay. Now let us come back here. You can observe this item ID value. It will keep changing for each and every record. It will be different for each record. Keep observing this value also. Item ID will be unique. It is a in SQL you will be having identity data type. What is that? Identity data type, which will be creating unique ID values. Graphical user ID or something like that. GUID. And here now coming back, this will be auto generated. You don't need to do anything for this. You just need to create a data item to store this value. To store the values which are coming from this stage, by execution of this stage, you will be getting two values, item ID and item data. You just need to create collection and item ID data item to store the values here. Okay. Now continue. Now it has picked up the second record 1008 and we are able to see that record is in locked state now. Now we are going to add the salary. After adding the salary, is BluePrism moving that record to completed automatically? No, we are supposed to mark it as completed. Now after marking that record as completed, go back here and verify your queue whether it is completed or not. It is completed now. None of the records are in locked status here. See, all are in pending. So when we have pending records, our get next item will get the pending item based on first in first out concept. Now it is going to get the next item and see after executing this, you can see the item ID value will be changed because we are getting a new ID. The item ID value has been updated here. Now you can see which record it has picked up, 1007. Now go back to the flow, refresh the flow and see. We're able to see 1007 is in locked status now. Now you continue. Okay, now it's going to mark it as completed. Now I'm going to execute. So once refresh the flow, you can see all the records are completed. No more pending records. No more pending records in the queue. Now you execute get next item. See what is going to happen when you execute get next item. your item ID and item data are empty because there are no more records. So what happened? We came to end. Now go back to the queue. So we have processed all the records. Now all the records will be available in the queue for us. We are not going to lose any data. We will be knowing that which record we have completed, which record we have not completed, which record is moved to exception, which is in progress, which is in pending status. Everything we can identify in the queues. But whereas if you do the same thing from the, will you be able to do the same thing from the collections? Can you identify in the collections which record is in pending, which record has been completed, etc.? No, right? We can't do it through the collections. Yes, sir. So that is the advantage we have with the queues. Okay. Any questions? Anyone have any doubts? Don't have any questions? Just give me a minute, guys. I'll have some water and come back. Just a minute. So meantime, if you have any questions, please drop a comment in this chat box. Is that clear now? How we have added the data to the queue and how we have created the queue and all? Now let us implement the same concept in our process. Okay. And one more thing here. One more thing here. I'm not sure why you guys are not asking any questions. Is it clear? I'm not sure if it is clear or not. But please let me know if you want me to repeat it. I will repeat it once again. But don't expect me to repeat it multiple times. Okay. It's just a second. Okay. Yeah, sorry guys. Yeah, okay, so let us come back here. So what is the problem here we are facing is, so we have designed the flow properly. So we're adding the data to the queue, we are getting the items, we are able to add the salary, we are able to mark the record as completed successfully. But if you observe carefully, the updated salary value is getting lost. Okay, so see here, I'm going to start the flow. You can observe this, get next item. Okay, okay, so first record is executed. Now see what is going to happen. So let me come back to, let me show you from first. Refresh this. Yeah, we have completed first record. Now we are processing second record. When we are processing the second record, after processing the second record, you can see the salary bonus for second record. This is our second record, right? Now, when I get the next item, see, immediately you can see our values are lost. Even in initial values, will not have any records here because this is an undefined collection. See, our previous record is lost here. Yes, sir. So what are we supposed to do now? So if I want my copy to another collection, excellent. So once we get the data here in the item data, from that, let us move the data to another collection. So what is the resolution for our problem here? The problem we are facing is we are losing the data because I can't go ahead and every time store it in a different collection. I can't go ahead and store the items which I'm getting from the queue in different collections. So in that scenario, I will place it in a different collection. So after processing one record, before marking the record as completed, I will allocate a value to the new collection. See how I'm going to do that. We need to use multiple actions here to do that. One is multi-calculation stage, and let us take a new collection. I'm going to use multi-calculation stage and store the data which is present in this collection to this collection. Okay, see how am I going to do that? Here I am going to define the collection. It should be defined collection. So let me copy same values, right? Let me copy paste the same collection here, or else you can take a new collection because I don't want to define the fields multiple times. Same fields. What I'm going to do? No more initial values in this. Just no more current values, no more initial values. Okay. Now what we do? Name for this stage conflicts. Okay. Name. Let's update the name. So this is our uh, employee data underscore. Okay. Employee bonus info. Let us name it as employee bonus info. Let us give a proper name. So now I am going to define the values here. So observe this, and the values are in this collection, right? So once you get the next item, it is getting updated. So what we do, go to the multi-calculation stage. Okay, in the expression you say employee, I mean item id dot. So since they are undefined collections, see these are undefined collections. Okay, you will not be having fields defined here. Only if you define the fields, you will be able to see them under this collection. Only if you define the fields. Since it is an undefined collection, so what are we supposed to do? Item data dot, or to make your work more easier, you can follow one more method. Simply paste it from employee data dot location, employee ID, employee name, employee salary and employee. Let me move down. Employee salary bonus. Okay. Now instead of employee data, just update the collection name. Collection name dot field name, right? To make your work more easier, data. Do this. Okay. Now copy this value. Copy. Paste it here. So now whatever the value present inside the item data collection, now we are going to store it in employee bonus info, the final collection, that is this one. Employee name, employee salary, employee location, employee salary bonus. Okay. So in storing, you don't need to define it in square brackets. Since you are storing it there, right? You don't need to define it in square brackets is not required. You can simply store the result here. But whereas in the expression field, you need to put it in a square brackets. So what am I doing here? Simple expression. Whatever the value present inside this column, that will be flowing to specific collection. Okay. Set data to final collection. Set data to final collection. Okay. Let us let me do one thing. Scroll down, down, bit down. Now let me add. Now we can remove this. We can design the flow properly now. Put it here. Now link from adding the bonus salary. After adding the salary to the bonus to the salary, immediately you move the data from item data collection to another collection. Okay, so that our data will not be lost. Clear? Now see, now what I am doing, so I am having this record, right? Currently there is one record in this collection, that is 1007. From there we are going for the record. I am going to add bonus. Now you can see we have the data here in the bonus column, so we are able to add the value. So once we add the value here, now we are going to set the values present in the item data collection to another collection, new collection. So if you want to set the data to the new collection, and now if you execute this, see what is the error you are facing? Could not store calculation result, cannot set employee ID, the collection has no current row. Okay, there should be some empty value, empty record. Since it is a defined collection, there should be at least one empty row to add the data to this collection. Okay, so in that case, can I go ahead and add records priorly? You won't be able to add, you won't be able to do this. If you do this also, see what is going to happen. Even if you do this, see what is going to happen. So assume that you added records here. Now you try to store it. It will be able to store the data, right? In which first record it is storing the data. Now continue with the second record. Okay, now we got the new record here in the item data collection. You can see there will be new record 1009. What is the previous record we have in this collection? We have updated the previous record to the collection 1007. Yes or no? Okay, now once you go ahead and set the data, again the data will be updated to first record only. Understood? So what are we supposed to do here is, why this is happening is, see, collection side, this is a very different concept here in the collections. There will be different types of collections, defined collection, undefined collection. Undefined collection, we just get the data will be in the current values. There will not be any fields in the undefined collection. But whereas in the defined collection, when you're working on defined collection, if you want to use a defined collection, you need to use loop stage. You need to use loop stage. Even if you want to use undefined collection, you need to use loop stage. Whereas in the defined collection, first row will be your current row all the time. In the defined collection, first row will be your current row all the time. Okay. In both the collection, first row will be your current row all the time. But whereas if you want to store the records in multiple rows, again you need to iterate on this collection. If you keep iterating on this collection, you will not know exactly where are you storing the record. So if you loop on this, what is going to happen if you loop on this? It will loop on all the 4 records. It will loop on all 4 records. Once you start the loop, it will end the loop till all the 4 records is completed. Okay, but we should not do that loop concept here. Instead of that, what we do, we are going to take a action stage. We are going to take a action stage, open the action stage. Now we are going to use one more internal business object, that is collections, and say add row to a collection. This will add a current row to a collection. Add row to a collection. So what is our collection name? Which collection we are planning to add the row? So remember, collection name and what is the data type it is expecting. Input, what is it? Name of the collection, and in text data type you just need to pass the name of the collection. So while passing the name in the text data type, in double quotes you mention the name of the collection, employee underscore bonus info. Okay, so for this collection it is now going to add a row. When are we supposed to add a row? Before you set the data, before you set the data to this collection, there should be a empty row all the time. There should be a empty row all the time. Okay, so that is how we are going to design this. Okay, now reset the flow, go back to the queue. Let us clear the whole queue first. Let us clear the whole queue. I'm going to select everything. I'll delete all the cases. I don't want to see any pending items, so I'm going to remove everything. So how to delete a pending item? You will not be able to directly delete the pending item. You can see deleted work cases only. You can delete only worked items. If you want to delete a pending item, right click on that, mark that case as exception. You need to mark it as exception. Provide the comments and click OK. Once that record is moved to exception, right click and now delete the case. This is how we are supposed to delete the items. If you don't want to have any records in the queue, if you want to refresh your queue to empty, set the queue to empty, you should be able to do it like this. Okay, now come back here. Now let us do step by step once again so that you will be able to understand it clearly. So why I'm seeing one error here, go to that. Add bonus to salary, item data, not item data, the salary. Okay, that's fine. So since there is no values, right, that is the reason it is throwing an error. There is no current records. You can see the error message description: cannot add to unknown, cannot add to unknown, invalid expression, cannot add to unknown. Why is that throwing that error? Is because see, this is an undefined collection, right? We are planning to store the values in the undefined collection. That is the reason you are getting this error. You can just forget about it. That is not going to stop you from processing the data. Set as next stage. Now execute step by step. So first we are going to add the data to the queue. Go back to the queue and check if we have the records in the queue. We have the records in the queue. Execute. Now we are picking up the item from the queue. You got the item, first record from the queue. Yes or no? This is the first record from the queue which we have extracted. So for first record we are going to add this bonus. So before that, check if your queue is has locked that record or not. It is locked. Come back here, execute. So bonus is added. You can see the item ID, current values. We have the salary bonus here. Now what are we going to do? Now we have to set this data into, oh my god, what I have done. 1 second guys. I have left it like that only, right? We should not, we should leave this collection as empty. Okay, let me reset. Mistakes. mistakes. We should not define any values here. If you unlock also, it will go to exception automatically. After going to exception, okay, let me mark everything as exception here. Let us do it from first again. I don't want to make you confused. I don't want to confuse you guys. Let me delete it. Let me rerun it. Now, if you see, the collection is empty. There are no records here. The collection is empty, no records. Okay. Now set this as the next stage. Execute. Add data will be added to the queue. First record will be picked up from the queue. This is the first record. Now we are going to calculate and store the bonus value in this updated salary in this salary bonus. So here you can see, once you execute that, now you will be able to see the updated salary here. Okay. Now there is no records in this collection. If you want to store that data, you can see in initial values and current values, there are no records. If you want to store this, store the values from this collection to this collection, this should have an empty record. For that reason, we are adding an empty record. I'm adding one empty record. Now you can see there will be one empty record here, right? Now we are allocating the data present inside this collection to this collection. Yes. Now click OK. Mark that first record as completed. Refresh your queue. You can see first record is completed. Now we are going to click the second record. Get next item. You can see the item data value will be updated here with the second record. Salary bonus is empty. After you add the bonus value to the salary, you can see the column will be having the value. Now we are going to add new record. When you are going to add new record, see, now we have added new record. Now if you see here, this will be your current row. Now this will be your current row. Every empty record will be your current row when you add it. When you add it explicitly. Now you will be able to store the value in the current row. Now you will be able to store the value in the current row. Understood? Likewise, okay, continue. So if you continue, we click continue, it keeps adding the current row. Okay, now you can see the data is now available in the current values. Now you can update this data into Excel file. If you want to update this data into Excel file, you can update it. Okay, this is how we are going to implement queue concept. Now you can see in your queues, you can see all the records will be in completed status, right? When are they created? When are they completed? So at how much time it took for each record to complete? Okay, this is how we are going to utilize work queues. Understood? Any questions? Now we are going to implement the same concept in our process also. Okay, we are going to implement the same concept in our Centrix data solution process. So we have taken a simple example first, and now we are going to implement the same thing in our Centrix data solution process. So immediately if I talk about this concept in Centrix data solution, right, you might get confused. That is the reason. First, I have taken a small process. I explained it here. Now we will go ahead and implement the concept in Centrix data solution process. Okay. Are we good so far?